really like that the flagged content areas are available for students, particularly in the case where a student might be struggling to get to a place where they feel confident they're going to pass step one. You used to feel a little helpless looking at a score report that has many weak areas, and it was hard to know how to advise students about where to even start. So those flagged content areas have made just my approach feel more purposeful or more intentional with those students, to just break it down, make it more manageable for them to focus on 3 things before even taking another practice test.
One of the features that I've been using is just doing a lot with filtering and sorting, particularly if I have a student who takes a self-assessment and the percent correct is extremely low. If I had a student who, let's say, got a 32% on their self-assessment, I would probably recommend for them not to review it with the actual questions, but we can take a look at their data overall, and we can use the sorting and the filtering and look at overarching areas and say, why don't we go back and study these areas that were low some more? And then I actually have them take that exact same exam again. Not so much for the percent correct. I'm really interested in, did we get questions wrong before and now we got them right again? It's really been helpful just to go in there and be able to filter, and they can select that exact same exam twice, and we can compare apples to apples. So we're not necessarily using it to make any date determination about, oh yeah, you're ready to sit, but it's more of an exercise when you have a student who's scoring really, really low, to actually help them understand, like, you can improve, it can go up, and we can also save some of those other exams for the future as well.
My very favorite feature, I kind of stumbled upon by accident. So in the preset filters, there are the categories that you would normally see on the score report. However, what I realized is you don't have to only use those words to search for. So for example, the word neoplasm appears in multiple systems. And so one thing students sometimes struggle with is integrating all of the information they need to know for step 1, step 2. So instead of looking at it in isolation, you can now look at themes across each of these systems. So neoplasm is one of the keywords I have them type in. I've also found congenital disorders, traumatic and mechanical disorders, and I'm sure there's more, but really helpful in determining something that's outside of what the traditional score report had.
I think one of my favorite features that I find very valuable is the time column, which tells us how much time is spent on each question. I think students take an assessment and they always attribute their incorrects to content deficits, and they think that it's always knowledge that is the issue at play. And so I'll look at time with them. I'll do highest to lowest, and I'll say, wow, you did 20 questions and spent over 260 seconds. Why? Yeah. and then let's look at how many of those did we actually get wrong. And I'll tell them, one question isn't going to make or break your score. Then we'll flip it, and then I'll look at, wow, how many questions did they spend under 30 seconds? And more specifically, we'll look at the incorrects. And then when we review those questions, I'm like, if you just gave it an extra 20 seconds, an extra 30 seconds, how many more of these questions would we have gotten correct? So that time column is so powerful for them to sort of recognize that they might be sitting on a question too long, they might be overconfident on another question, and it just needed a little bit more time to think through what is the question asking, what are the clues. So that's one of my favorite features. The second one is that the data's, you can export it. You can export it to Excel or CSV. And I find this really helpful because as learning specialists or as faculty and staff, we don't have access to students' insights unless they're in a meeting with us and we have them pull it up. One thing I started to do with my students that are in clerkships is I'll have them export their practice test data, put it in a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet and send it to me, so then I can look at the data, analyze it, look for patterns, and then sort of give them feedback that way.